Friends, in this contemporary world of the 21st century, nations give safety to their people while maintaining their success, power, and sovereignty. The only segment that guarantees the safety of nation is defense establishments. A country's military sector not only protects its population but also determines its regional and global range of influence. We can say that a robust defense system demonstrates the country's dominance on the global platform. Friends, just imagine, can a country dream of becoming a world leader if its military sector is entirely dependent on imports? The answer is clear, guys. Experts believe that being self-sufficient in defense is the most important way for any country to compete globally. Our country's defense establishments are undoubtedly a significant expenditure sector in the Indian economy. In the fiscal year 2020-21, the defense sector received 2.1% of GDP, and in the fiscal year 2021-22, defense accounted for 13.5% of overall government spending, the most significant percentage of any industry in comparison. However, as we previously stated, self-sufficiency or self-reliance is essential in the defense sector, and India isn't self-sufficient in this area. India faced wars with Pakistan and China as an independent nation, demonstrating the need to have a solid defensive force. Friends, the military industry of 21st century is nothing like the one we had previously. Do you want to know how? The threat of terrorism and cyber attacks is increasing continuously. Under these circumstances, the defense industry will have to foresee these challenges. Not only that, but India's border clashes with its neighbors have been steadily escalating in recent years. Whether it is the India-China standoff that happened in the Aksai Chin region or the India-Pakistan standoff of 2019. Aside from this, the threat of Naxalites, Maoists, and other domestic dangers is also growing. As India progresses technically and economically, so does the threat of cyber threats such as hacking, denial of service, and ransomware. As a result, making India's defense establishments self-sufficient should be at the top of our priority list. In today's video, we will learn about the history of India's defense imports. At the same time, we shall learn what actions have been taken to make the defense self-sufficient since independence. Finally, we will look at how India may become self-sufficient in terms of defense. Let's begin by looking at the history of defense establishments. Friends, self-reliance, often known as independence, is not a new concept. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the country's first Prime Minister, was a firm believer in self-reliance. He was constantly motivating and educating people about the country's economic development, which should have happened based on scientific and technical advancements. According to Pandit Nehru, the scientific temper was one to write the future of India. By the conclusion of British rule, India had created roughly 12 ordnance industries. The British never focused on making these factories self-sufficient. Even after independence, the situation remained the same, with industries there, but technological advancement did not occur. The need for the armed forces had also risen due to World War II, and due to this, since independence, India has been building its defense industrial base to attain self-reliance. During the 1950s, India began to produce equipment indigenously with very little technical know-how, but advanced equipment is still imported. In 1956, the revised industrial policy resolution restricted the arms and ammunition industry from operating in the public sector. That is, any private corporation could not produce them. Following this, the ordnance factories established by the British in 1958 formed the backbone of India's defense industry. DRDO, or Defense Research and Development Organization, was also founded in the same year. India's military sector gained its first boost after the 1962 Indo-China War, in which India had to face the sovereignty crisis. This crisis forced the Indian government to raise defense spending, which increased from 1.5% of GDP to 2.3%. Following this, India developed defense relations with the Soviet Union during the Indo-Pak conflict in 1965, when the US refused to provide weaponry to India. Within the next 15 years, the Soviet Union began to supply a significant portion of India's defense equipment. India received advanced weapons as well as manufacturing of equipment was also started. This manufacture, my friends, was license-based. This means no Indian technology was used and foreign technology was developed in India. Its most prominent example is MiG-21 fighter aircraft, which was manufactured by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited in Bangalore. As a result of this arrangement, India's domestic industries have come to a halt in research, development, and manufacturing. After this, additional attempts were made in the 1980s to boost the domestic defense sector. DRDO received significant funding and indigenous missile systems such as Prithvi, Akash, and Nag were developed. During this period, India started the development of its flagship aeronautical project, the Light Combat Aircraft. Then in the year 1988, India and Russia agreed to collaborating on developing a supersonic cruise missile system. The name of this system was BrahMos. It was a cooperative venture between Russia and India. A major development took place in the 1990s when the liberalization phase started in India, as well as various progressive economic changes were introduced. This liberalism was going to impact the defense sector as well. After the reforms at the beginning of 21st century, India had left behind state-run enterprises and a centrally planned economy. And for the first time in India's history, the road was opened for the private sector to enter the military industry. This means the private sector was given full access to the defense industry. The Make category was introduced for the first time in the Defense Procurement Policy of 2006. In this category, the focus was on indigenous research, design, development, and production. The government agreed to cover up to 80% of the manufacturing cost under this strategy. In the defense industry, up to 26% of FDI was permitted, but the government was still dependent on imports for advanced weapons. Like Sukhoi 30 MKI aircraft was incorporated into the Air Force. Submarines and missile destroyers were purchased for the Navy. Long-range howitzers were procured for the Army. After this, the following important policy was the Defense Procurement Policy of 2013. In this policy, an attempt was made to boost domestic procurement. Indigenous defense equipment was designated as preferred choice under this category. Since then, India has made steady progress toward its goal of self-sufficiency. India became one of the few countries to build its nuclear submarines, aircraft carriers, and intercontinental ballistic missiles. However, India did not cease seeking cooperation from technologically superior countries. Let us now proceed to the next important defense policy. Friends, until 2014, the public sector lacked both focus and funds for research and development. Along with this, there was no special involvement of FDI or the private sector in the growth of defense sector. However, in 2014, the defense sector saw a significant transformation. This policy resulted in several significant policy changes, such as the procurement efficiency was increased, shifted the focus on the ease of business. The entry barriers were also reduced, making it more straightforward for the private sector to enter. The private sector was offered huge incentives. Along with this, attention was also paid to transparency. The licensing procedure was streamlined, which was the main reason why private players were not able to enter this sector. FDI was also increased from 26% to 49% in this policy through an automatic route. Funds above 49% were also approved through the government approval route. The Defense Procurement Policy 2016 also supported the Make in India campaign. A new procurement category, Buy, has been added to this policy. Friends, IDDM means indigenously designed, developed and manufactured. This category was given the highest priority. This was a historical perspective. Let us look at the current situation and see what actions are being taken to make the defense sector self-sufficient. Friends, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched a new campaign in May 2020 in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Under this campaign, the defense sector was labeled as an essential sector. By making this industry self-sufficient, job opportunities can be generated as well as the import load can be reduced. India bought over 10% of the world's weapons between 2015 and 2019, making it the world's largest importer. The ongoing tensions between India and China have highlighted the necessity for faster procurement. Experts feel that it becomes vital to minimize the imports in such a case. Along with reducing imports, indigenous defense procurement is also being encouraged. The Indian Army ordered M4 armored vehicles from Pune-based Bharat Forge company in February 2021. The Ministry of Defense also contributed to the success of Make in India. For example, foreign direct investment in the defense sector has increased to 74%. From 2021-22, 60% of the total capital acquisition budget has been earmarked for domestic capital procurement. That means 60% of the purchase would be done through Indian companies. By modifying Defense Procurement Procedure 2016, the ministry has issued Defense Acquisition 2020. Self-reliance has been emphasized in this Defense Acquisition 2020. It talks about the application of indigenous software. At the same time, startups and MSMEs have been given a significant boost in terms of innovation. In 2020 and 2021, the Department of Military Affairs, Ministry of Defense announced the import embargo list. This list have restricted the import of 209 products, giving indigenous people a significant boost. Friends, today a large industrial base has been built for Indian defense front, which will help in making India's defense sector self-reliant. The Defense Research and Development Organization, or DRDO, is the most important organization in this industrial base. Apart from that, the government consolidated 41 ordnance manufacturers in October 2021 and transformed them into 7 government firms that the government would entirely control. According to the Prime Minister, these firms are the foundation of India's military power. These 7 companies are Munitions India Limited, Armored Vehicles Corporation Limited, Advanced Weapons and Equipment India Limited, Troop Comforts Limited, Yantra India Limited and India Optal Limited. Apart from this, 12 defense PSUs or DPSUs are also contributing to the defense industry of India. Friends, a significant objective is being promoted in government's Atmanirbhar program, in which the private sector is forcefully encouraged. Let's take a look at the role of private companies in the defense sector. Friends, as we have mentioned, India's military sector has been open to private enterprises since 2001. This industry is showing a lot of promising trends. The private sector has begun to participate in huge defense projects. Tata and L&T, for example, collaborated on the construction of the Battlefield Management System, or BANS. Aside from that, the government has allowed private companies to transfer technology. Under this, L&T has been responsible for designing the unmanned aerial vehicle Lakshya. A significant provision strategic partnership policy was also introduced in the Defense Procurement Policy 2016. Under this policy, selected Indian private sector companies could partner with foreign companies. In this, the manufacturing of fighter jets, helicopters, submarines, and armored vehicles was promoted. Srijan, an indigenization portal, was also launched in August 2020. Through this portal, it will be easy for DPS and ordnance factories to provide development support to startups. A positive indigenization list will also be established, including things that will be manufactured only in India. Due to this push of private companies, in 2021, Kalyani Rafale Advanced Systems handed over its first indigenous missiles to the Indian Army. This company is a joint venture of Kalyani Group and Israel's Rafale Advanced Defense System. Today, more than 300 private defense companies have been registered in India, out of which about 110 have started production for defense. Tata, Reliance, Mahindra, Adani, Kalyani Rafale Advanced System and L&T are among the major private participants. So friends, this was a detailed discussion where we learned about India's defense import history and government policies till now. Now the issue is whether India would be able to achieve self-sufficiency through these means. Well, the answer is yes. Friends, it is possible in every way. While industry stakeholders have welcomed these steps, there are still some difficulties that must be addressed as soon as possible. Let's look at some of the policies that will help India become self-sufficient in terms of defense. The first problem, my friends, is defense modernization and stagnant capability growth, where high-tech weaponry is still a challenge. One of the reasons for this growth stagnation is reduction in budget allocation for long-term investments and research and development. Second is the budgetary issue, where 54% of the total defense expenditure is allocated to salaries and pensions alone, and only 27% is allocated for defense modernization. Experts believe that government should make efforts to increase our defense budget. In addition, strategic planning for future demands of the armed forces, such as high-tech weapons and equipment, should be undertaken, and this should be considered in the long planning. Apart from that, the decision-making process should be made more efficient, and bureaucratic red tape must be reduced. The last one is private sector participation. The private sector can undoubtedly assist India in achieving its goal of self-sufficiency. The government should offer considerably more assistance to the private sector. Along with this, big defense projects should be allotted to private sector. Repair and maintenance of machinery might also be delegated to private players. Friends, this campaign to make the country Atmanirbhar is commendable. A robust domestic defense manufacturing sector can take India's military capabilities to new heights, and the dream of Atmanirbhar can also come true. So friends, in this video we have discussed what are the possibilities of India becoming a self-reliant defense manufacturer. What's your opinion and thought on this complete issue? What are the challenges and what are the choices India can make to achieve this target according to you? Do comment below in the comment section about your opinion and thoughts. And with this question, my friends, that's it for the video. I hope you have liked the video, and if you have, don't forget to share it with your friends. We will meet in next video. Till then, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.